Wisconsin's housing market right now is characterized by an extraordinarily shortage of inventory. We don't have enough homes on the marketplace, but as well, it's dominated by a huge spike in demand, which is really driven by historically low interest rates. So when you have low supply, which started back in the after the Great Recession, and high demand, you have a huge upward pressure on pricing, and that's what we're seeing today with housing, particularly in the workforce housing and affordable housing areas, with prices spiking, and our affordability is really becoming an issue. But equally important to that negative impact on families is the impact it has on employers in the state. We all know we have a shortage of employees, and even in businesses that whose economics might be doing well, if there's no place for workers to live, then the ability of those businesses to expand, help themselves as well as the families and the state's economy is further limited. The influx of these ARPA funds from the federal government gives, I think, local units of government a once in a generation, if not once in a lifetime, opportunity for very cooperative public-private partnerships to address that housing shortage in the state of Wisconsin.
We're a population about 11,000. We have our largest industry, I think, in Terry Marinette Marine, Navy shipbuilding. And we've been gearing up for an increase in production, and approximately 2,500 workers are on the site a day, about 1,000 of those subcontractors. But with the award of the contract and a great collaboration to bring that contract here, we're upwards of the next 2.5 years have to fill 1,000 new jobs. And for a community our size, you know, that's a huge task that we're going to have to reach out to a lot of partners, including the county and other local and state officials, to help us with. And the biggest thing we keep talking about here, and I think Melissa and Dan have talked about, it's housing, affordable housing, that people can move into an area and, you know, we all say be part of the community. They help our school system for their costs and revenues. They certainly help tax base, and getting those workers to come here is probably the biggest thing, you know, and find that housing. Well, and I think Jared DeShane talked at the beginning of, you know, we've got rural part community of the county where people come work in the city of Marinette, and they live sometimes outside of the county. We've tried to really look at the housing as our biggest need right now, because those workers need to live somewhere. So we've recently collaborated with the county. We've looked at in-rem properties, stuff that goes back to the tax rolls. Can we rehab it, get it back on the tax rolls? Can we demo the stuff that's beyond repair? We're starting development agreements as a pilot program to bring builders. Let's infill these properties and add some stock. We know we need the larger developments and housing complexes that we're working with other developers, but it's kind of a combination of a lot of approaches. And I think you're right. It does need some collaboration and pooling funds, because as I think several have said, everyone is going to line up and tell us how we should spend this money quickly. But if we need to look at the longer term and what it means to bring people here.
Yes, we do suffer from some of the same areas that have been mentioned numerous times in these conversations today. Worker shortage is a huge issue up here, or perhaps more succinctly, a mismatch between available workers and the worker skills needed. And so we're looking at how do we do a better job of matching that. Housing is a huge issue up here, affordable housing. We are, along with the rest of you, in a hot market. We have, during COVID, the real estate market took off. We're very concerned about the influence of speculators coming and buying up housing for use as Airbnbs, and the impact of that on our community.
Basically, every meeting for committee, board, or whatever I'm on, it always boils down to the same two issues. It's always affordable housing and childcare.
People go to La Crosse, and I've heard it said 1,000 times. You want to go to La Crosse, you want to stay. Why? Because it's a happening place. It's a vibrant place. What's your reaction, Steve, to creating a community where young people want to be, which then becomes a magnet for our new millennium knowledge technology-based businesses to locate to.
Mark, as you represented, I think that's really who we are. We've been very much conscious of branding ourselves on quality of life, being an exceptional place with extraordinary services. And so the way we're approaching this is not to rush to individual projects, but our extension department and my associate administrator and our board chair have been very clear on trying to define common values about how to enhance that. We do all kinds of things with recreation, tourism, but really trying to concentrate on 5 specific values that have been identified by our county board members in workshop. Housing first, local economy and promoting tourism because it's been so devastated by the pandemic, losing 40 to 50% of their revenues within our tourism industry. Workforce development and childcare. I'm so excited about the things that Ruth shared with us earlier, both in the video and just now. We're trying to concentrate on what can we do in that area that's big, that can actually accomplish that so that when young families are here, they do have childcare options and we have that deficit addressed. Focus on infrastructure for the aging population so that as you and I get older, Mark, and you relocate to La Crosse, that we do have a nursing home for you that you will enjoy. And then, of course, sustainability and environmental protection. So those are 5 broad categories of values identified by our board. We're very respectful that our board will be setting our priorities and then using those priorities and values to work collaboratively because we are really the big fish in the small pond. We're the regional center for people in Iowa, Minnesota, and the surrounding area where people come in for jobs in our central city. So, but we're being very much driven by the priorities set by our board.
Some of the key priorities you raised are as follows suit: workforce development, retention and attraction, affordable housing, access to childcare, broadband, transportation, and then finally mental health services and crisis response. Those are probably the 6 top priorities that we're discussing.
With investments in expanding that I was calling for it as expansion of real estate development and housing. One of the return on investment calculations, something Jason mentioned in the first session, is those kinds of investments really do have an ROI for local communities. A big benefit to home ownership or property ownership in general is the quality of the local services provided by their towns and cities and villages and counties, snow removal, police and fire protection, garbage collection. Those types of things really do add to the quality of life of any community. And I think any investments that we make in residential development that I was asking about really has that circular benefit both to the families and to the communities and gives the revenues necessary to provide those types of services back to the property owner. So it's a good ROI, I think, when you look at that circular benefits.